What is a successful NHL season? Well, for these 8 teams I put on the whiteboard, it is to make the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs next season, and they missed it this year. So let's see if they are ready for it this year and see if they can succeed where they failed this season. So let's talk all about it. So welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the teams I believe that missed the playoffs have the best chances of making it in this year. Of course, the team I'm wearing, like the Kraken, the Penguins, the Flyers, they missed it, but I also don't think they have a chance of making it this year. I think they are still in the running. But these teams, I think, have a possibility of doing it, and let's break them down each and see if they are ready for it or not. So, starting off with the blue shirts, the New York Rangers. This team, it is almost impossible, if not is impossible, for them to have as bad of a season as they had last season. Everything went wrong for them, and I still think the problems still linger, right? Of course, Chris Drury is an interesting figure. Is he good at his job? Is he not good at his job? He's kind of back and forth with it always. Management in New York, coaching in New York, things have just been rocky for the last at least year and a half, 2 years. And last year was the epitome of the rock bottom that team was at. Everyone had bad years. Every single player. Kreider had a horrendous year. Panarin was down in his numbers. Zibanejad. Everyone you could point to on this team had a ridiculously horrible season. And it goes throughout the entire lineup. It is impossible for that to happen again. That was the lowest it could happen. Everyone's going to have at least a bounce back that's still on the team, of course. We have some missing players. Lindgren, Capo Caco, Chris Kreider. Yeah, like a lot of players that are off of this team. Keandre Miller just traded as well, right? Well, just traded a while ago. The team has moved on from a lot of talent, and with the bones that they are left with, I still think they have a good chance. Zibanejad, if he can bounce back a little bit, he's with Miller and Trocheck. That is 3 very decent centermen, right? They have on 3 different lines. Center depth is fine. You have a Panarin on the team still. You still have a lot of decent players that can put points on the board. And you have Adam Fox back there as well, a former Norris winner, right? And Igor Shesterkin. With these bones of the team, you should be able to make the playoffs. But the winger situation, Lafreniere is and then the second line, it is bad scoring talent, right? Defensively is not helping out much either. With only Adam Fox, really, you add Gavrikov instead of a Keandre Miller, like that. You have sacrificed some offense to this team. Will it work? I don't know. I think they still have the talent to make the playoffs, but in this tight Eastern Conference and the wild card race with the Canadiens and the Senators emerging last year as people in the race, and then you add in the Bruins, you add in the Red Wings, it is going to be a very tight race, and especially with Panarin's contract coming up, maybe they shift away from him. A lot of moving parts could be happening in New York this year, so it's like they are a fringe playoff team, and maybe the smartest thing would not make the playoffs. Maybe it is a year you step back a little bit and you trade away what you can and recoup quickly. You trade away a Panarin, you try to bring back a younger, decent player who emerges next year as a better player, right? Something like that. So for me, the Rangers, I think they are ready, but it might not even be the smartest thing because if they get in, they're going to lose anyways, in the first round. So, bad situation right now in New York. The Vancouver Canucks. It is all based on if Elias Pettersson can find his game. If he can find his game and become a 100-point player, I think they have a good shot. I think with the players surrounding him, I think it is very tough on that team. The defense, I think, is very fine, especially if a guy like Myers steps up and has a good season again, and with the other Peterson on the defense back there as well. They have a very solid defense, of course with Quinn Hughes as well getting tons of points. Demko and Lincoln in net. They have, once again, like the Rangers, they have the bones and the necessities to be a playoff hopeful. It's just the things have to go right. You have to hope Evander Kane can play at least a decent season, play at least the season, and have a decent season at that as well. He's going to be a top 6 forward, and he is going to need to play. And with the money that he's getting paid. He needs to perform, right? Connor Garland, same thing. He just got his big contract. All these guys have to perform because they don't have a ton of how the Rangers have guys like JT Miller, have guys like Panarin who can fill in these deep offensive holes. The Canucks, they got rid of Miller, right? They have deep offensive holes that need to be filled in. They need to have guys like Hedl have a decent 40, 50-point season. They need guys like Evander Kane to get enough, 40 points, needs 20 goals or something like that. And that's where I'm like, I don't know at this point if these are going to be things that are necessarily going to happen to cross them over that line, especially with, once again, the crowding that is happening. Because a lot of these teams all at the same time are trying to make it in. Utah, Calgary at the same time. Hell, the Kraken, I guess. But it's definitely a tight race, and Vancouver's kind of in that same zone as the Rangers, where it's like, if everything goes right, yes. But at the same time, if they make it in, they aren't going to get very far. Unless they make additions throughout the season and stuff, or still this off season, maybe. But it's definitely is it going to happen? Maybe not. I think they get crowded out. I think they're a team that the threshold to get in the playoffs will be 96, and they're a team that gets to 93, where it's right there. Or hell, they might sink lower than that. I mean, hell, who knows if Pettersson is on the team by the end of the season. Once again, kind of like the Rangers, a lot of moving parts, and it's there's two pathways for them to go, and it's either they try for the playoffs or they rebuild. I don't know which way the right way is to go, but right now I feel like the Canucks are a type of team that could blow it up. But I'm an idiot, and you're all going to tell me that anyway. So, anyways, moving on. Detroit. They added John Gibson, of course. That's not going to change anything. One of the articles that I read when he got traded there, I think they said it perfectly. The Red Wings were the most shot-on team. They were bombarded every night. They were not a team that could hold onto the puck, control the game. They were always getting pounded on the net. And it's not like Cam Talbot. It's not like Alex Lyon were horrific goaltenders that were just letting everything sink past them. Sure, they might have been amazing, but it wasn't them failing. They were bombarded every night. And this team they didn't change anything with that. And John Gibson, he's going from a team in Anaheim that was letting him get shot on all the time and just bleed and bleed and bleed throughout every single season, to another team that's going to make him bleed and bleed and bleed, and they'll just miss the playoffs again. So to me, it's the same thing, and just looking at their lineup, it's sure, you look at their team, and there's some decent depth, kind of, not really. The thing about a team like the Red Wings, it's sure, you have still 40, 30-point guys getting down to the third line, but there's no one, other than kind of Raymond, but they don't have those superstars that fill in a little bit more of that depth, fill in those games where you need that one goal to win that game. That they miss those big pieces, and to me, this team is once again, they have looked for the last handful of years, is just is a completely mid AF team. There's no strength to this team at all. The defense isn't stellar. The offense isn't stellar. No, and especially because of how we know their resume is. It's the same team as before and just getting older. Especially some of their guys like Gustafsson and Sherratt. They are just getting older and going to get slower in the game. And Gibson's going to eat more and more pucks. I don't think his addition is going to change anything. I think he was the wrong landing spot for this team, for a team. Not that he had much say in it, but yeah, no, the Red Wings are not making the playoffs. The Bruins, of course, they were in the race for a long time to make the playoffs, and they made the smart move, like other teams should, like the Rangers and Canucks, to sell out this team for what they can and hold on to their resources. Sell their resources and recoup to go into next season and the future beyond, right? They have Fraser Minton now. They draft very well with James Higgins. They bring in Latourneau. They have more. They've got some young guys, but they're not going to change anything this year. Even if any of them make the lineup somehow. If James Higgins makes it, it's not going to change anything. They're not going to make they're not going to be some stellar standout rookies that change the team, right? This team needs a lot of work. The defense is fine. It's fine if you have a great offense. The offense is fine if you had a good defense and goaltending to hold up the offense. It's all very like it's all missing that one piece. It's all in like a Marchand for the offense. Because right now you have David Pastrnak, who is a top 10 player in the NHL, but he's centered with Elias Lindholm and Morgan Geekie. And behind them are Arvidsson and Zaka. It's just in Casey Middlestat. It's a lot of just. These are guys that Lindholm unfortunately did not work out for the Bruins when they signed him, which is just unfortunate. But if he did, if he can bounce back to that Calgary form, then that would be tremendous for them. But to me, it's just they're missing so many pieces, and the bottom six is just not good. And Swayman is not. I think he's still an elite goaltender, but he clearly last year was not ready and not really there for a full-time role. It didn't feel like, and there's just a lot of things wrong with this team. I think I don't even think if everything goes right, they are good enough, especially with other teams like the Canadiens, like the Senators, like the Rangers. Like, there's still so many teams that are so good and so talented, and maybe with a drop-off in a team like the Maple Leafs, that there's going to be more crowding towards that middle area of the Eastern Conference that crowds them out. I don't think they have that over-the-edge power in any kind of category that is going to lift them to a couple of wins that push them into the playoffs. So to me, the Bruins, and I think it's fine. I think the Bruins, as much as Don Sweeney seems like a super idiot, I think he is smart enough to know in what he did last year. Of course, the trades like Marchand and stuff could have gone way better for them. Still, I think they know in the right space that they are not a playoff team. They're not a contender by any means, and they have decent players and decent prospects that they need to let develop and retool so they are competitive like 2 years now. And hold on to Pastrnak, hold on to McAvoy and Swayman. Like, you have your centerpieces for each part of your team. You just need to fill out the depth, and I think they're going to do it just with time. So to me, Bruins, I think they're in a fine spot of missing the playoffs again and getting a nice draft pick, whatever it is. Utah, I don't know. I love the idea of this team. I don't know if they have what it takes yet. Mainly defense and goaltending. Offensively, I think they have Dylan Guenther. To me, is a guy that can easily get to 40 goals this year. I think Clayton Keller is going to have another fantastic season. I think the centermen of the team is very fine. JJ Peterka added to this team as well. Like, fantastic add. He's only, I think, going to get added up on a team with a little bit more hopes. There's a lot of offense that I love to see on this team. None of it is cutthroat. None of it is killer. None of it is like over. Like, no pieces are like, man, that guy, like, they're gonna take over games and stuff. But they have a solid enough offense to play very decent games throughout a lot of the season. That with depth, that'll carry them through some games and win them a couple of games and get a couple of points that they need on the board. What scares me is defense and goaltending. This year, Sean Durzi played 30 games. John Marino added this team 30-something games this year as well. Both of them performed at like half a point per game. But if they're unhealthy again, which looking at their seasons in the past, they're not super unhealthy. They usually make it pretty relatively close to a full season. But if they're banged up again, or if any of those pieces go down, if a Sergachev goes down, that's bad. That ruins a lot for this team. And goaltending as well. Vejmelka. If you saw the teaser for his new pads, I'm super excited to see those debut. And his helmet, Raptor helmet, super cool. Love Vejmelka. Love Veggie. I'm not convinced of him. He had a 904 save percentage this year. His career average is like bouncing a couple points around 900, which below goes into the 800s. And I know he's been on horrible teams with the Coyotes. But I don't know if he is a goaltender that is going to be decent enough to lift them in this. This is a team I think would be great for them to go for an actually very decent goaltender, like a John Gibson. Give him a chance on this team. But instead they're saddled with Vejmelka for another season and Vitek Vanacek behind him. And I'm just not convinced of that. I'm not convinced of that, and I don't think the defense in front of him in the defense on goals and on offense and defense, like the two-way game of the whole squad, feels very not like it isn't a takeover shutdown defense to me that makes me think they have chances to win games over Toronto, win games over Dallas, win games over the Winnipeg Jets, and get those lucrative points that other teams that have a tough chance against them will maybe squeak in. So to me, Utah, it's very interesting. I think, and there's only so many playoff spots. I think they get crowded out. I think there's a lot of really, really exciting things for this team, but I'm not convinced that this team has what it takes to get into the playoffs this year. This is a team that I would have loved to have seen. I know they get like a Nate Schmidt on this squad, but to me, I would have really loved to have them gone after a guy like Gavrikov, gone after a guy like maybe, or one of the big trades, like a Keandre Miller, right? Something to add a little bit more boost to this defense. And to me, I'm not sold on them. Calgary, I say no. I think they might have what it takes if they keep around the squad and they become buyers and they get a couple of decent pieces, whoever pops up on the market, and they trade for them. Maybe they are a team that they were right there last playoffs, right? They were right there. There were a couple, maybe 1 point. Was it 1 point or like 2-3 points? They were right there to make the playoffs, right? That's 2-3 wins of a difference. And with Dustin Wolf only getting better, like this team, they definitely technically have what it takes to make it in, but I say no. I say you blow it up. Your team is getting older. Every single decent player on this squad, except like Dustin Wolf and Coronado, are old. Kadri, 33, 34. Uyghur, 31. Backlund, 36, 34, 35, something like that. All these pieces are old. And to me, they're still serviceable now. But these contracts are going to linger. And they need to reset. They do. That is just the plain, simple fact. You have Dustin Wolf, your goalie that is going to carry you into the future, and you have some very decent young level players that are still growing. But with the trade rumors of Rasmus Andersson and Kadri, like to me, it's like this is the time to sell. And there's a lot of takers, a lot of buyers are out there. That every team that wants to get in, like I just said, like Utah, maybe a team like Vancouver, maybe a team like the Rangers, maybe a team like the Red Wings. They're looking for a guy to add on to this team to make them go over the line. And what you could like, especially if you go to like the Red Wings, Yzerman's an idiot. What if you trade a guy like Anderson for Axel Sandin Pellikka, right? A player that looks like he could be a superstar in the NHL one day, right? And you add him and you are good in 3 years and you have decent players in front of Dustin Wolf and you still have Coronado and stuff on the team. To me, and Connor Zary, like they have decent players to build around. It's just they need to replace some of these older assets and bring in younger guys for the future. Retool, so instead of your little window of not going to win the Stanley Cup but could maybe make the playoffs from being like the next 2 years maybe, and instead lengthen and say like we're going to miss the playoffs but we're going to get a couple of good draft picks and make it in 4 years. Make it in 4 years and actually be legit contenders. That's my opinion, and that's what I think. Blow it up, but they could make the playoffs this year. The Anaheim Ducks, everything that would need to go right would have to go right for Anaheim to make the playoffs. Leo Carlsson breaking out into like an 80, more like a point per game player. Troy Terry having to break out back into a around point per game player. Chris Kreider, like some of their bets, like Chris Kreider on the team now. Well, I guess he's not really a bet, but the addition, be a 40-point player, 20 goals or something like that, right? Everything like that, and the D-core especially. The D-core needing to show up and play solid. A lot of the young players on that D-core are young. Lacombe, Minchikov, Olin Zellweger, what's the other freaking one? Hellison, there's one more. What is the last one? Oh, it doesn't matter. But all these guys are below 25. Some of them are 21. Like, they are way, way, way young. And only really Radko Gudas is the only, like, legitimate, like, veteran NHL player. And he's old. So, this team, a lot of things would have to go right for them to make the playoffs, and all in the same season is crazy to me. I think they do take a step forward to making the playoffs, but I think they are I think they still end up being 10, 12 points out of a playoff spot. But I think in 2 years, I think in the year after this one, then we could start talking. And then, last up to round out the list, the Buffalo Sabres. Here's the thing. This team, like, I love looking at those, the memes where you see, like, they show, like, Reinhart, Thompson, Olmark, like, just so many, Eichel, whatever. All of these players that have gone on to win the Stanley Cup, Montour, to go on and win the Stanley Cup or just become very, very good players. Like, it's hilarious to see that they had them all in one team at one point. Honestly, this team that is on paper doesn't look bad at all. Like, it legitimately looks like a team that is decent enough to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, not to win the Stanley Cup, to make the playoffs. But it's Buffalo. And for those reasons, I'm out. But I don't know. And of course, I could include every other team. We could talk about the Kraken. I don't think so. Pittsburgh, Columbus, Chicago, the Sharks. Like, I could go on to every team that didn't make the playoffs. So I think these are the ones that have the best opportunity to. And I think, like, the Rangers, yes, I think they could do it. Vancouver, yes. Detroit, maybe. Boston, it's possible. Utah, yes. Calgary, yes. Anaheim, if everything goes right, yes. Buffalo, honestly, could. But, yeah, I don't know. But that is all I gotta say. It's just kind of the dead of the offseason, so this is just a rambling video of just giving my opinion on some teams and just having a yap. So if you enjoyed, subscribe. And I'm sure I'll do this again soon, and you could watch that one. And if you didn't enjoy, tell me that you didn't enjoy it down below. But that is all I gotta say. So thank you for watching. If you somehow made it to this point, thank you. Too sweet. Have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.